Okie dokie. So what I have just done here is I put these 1x3 battens down on the roof deck. Yesterday we put the membrane down. That's a different peel and stick than this, but this is still a peel and stick underlayment. This is only a 212 slope, so I did want to use a peel and stick underlayment underneath it just to ensure that we don't get any, ooh, I need to nail that little thing down there. If any water gets underneath here, you don't want it to get the sheathing wet. So also the way I applied these battens is I came in and I popped a bunch of lines, and they're actually angled ever so slightly so that if any water does get underneath, it has a way out, and it can kind of run down this and then run out these gaps and then run through there. So I left gaps in the boards. And I angled them ever so slightly off of the center line. That way, when I screw my screws, I can still do them, on center. But, down there, the screw will fall a little bit towards this end. And then over here, the screw will fall a little bit towards that end. And then I marked them and I nailed them off into the rafters here, all the way across with a framing nail. So there's a 3-inch ring shank framing nail that goes down in here. So they're all nailed off that way. I'm ready to go ahead and put the metal roofing down. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this by myself. I'm going to give it a try, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this by myself. My dad was supposed to help me today, but he decided to go play golf. So we got all the battens down. I've got them basically 2 foot on center here. And then that chalk line there indicates a perfectly square line off of the house. I did the 3, 4, 5, and in this case I did the 6, 8, 10 method to ensure I was perfectly straight. And then I checked it down here off of my rake rafter, and it is exactly the same distance there as it is here from the rake. So we're perfectly square. And that's important with the panels, because if you start to get off as you go, you got to kind of play with them. So you want to make sure that first panel is perfectly square, which that one is. And then you can lay the roofing down. So that'll lift it up. And what that'll do is allow a little bit of air ventilation underneath. So if it does get any condensation on it, any water that drips down from the condensation or whatever will dry out underneath. It has airflow underneath to dry it out. So that's how that works. So a little update here. We've got our fascia boards on. We have our Soffit boards on. Just finished out the little bird boxes on the corner. It's going to require a little bit of caulk, but once we caulk everything up, it'll look much nicer. I still don't have I made a boo-boo here. I was actually supposed to cut that metal flush, so I'm going to have to cut it with some shears. And then my rake trim that I ordered, it's being bent. I haven't gotten it yet. Will cover up and it'll come down the sides of this a little bit, and it'll act as the drip edge on the sides. And then across the front, I didn't do the color matched stuff because I'm going to actually have a gutter that runs across the whole front side of that. So we got these on. It was quite fun because hanging over this edge was never fun. We basically used what's called helping hands. So whenever you can, use some blocks of wood and put them in as ledgers to support your pieces. So basically what we did is I put a diagonal piece up here that kind of hung out there, and then a block on the side of the house. What? Okay, I'll be there in a second. And then we did the same kind of going down here so that we could kind of have the piece just sort of sitting where it needed to be, so you weren't trying to hold it, because these are fiber cement pieces. They're heavy, they're floppy, they're cumbersome to work with. So use a little bit of helping hand. So we got the whole soffit done here. We got this soffit done. Now what we're working on is basically a trim board to cover up this whole front side here, and it will wrap around. It'll be a band that'll wrap around the side. It'll wrap around this side here, and then I'll put a drip edge on top of it, and then above that we'll put siding to match the house. So that's what we're working on now. So fun times. So we got all of the exterior trim done on the porch itself. Cutting that siding was interesting there because you have a 2 and 12 pitch for the porch roof, and then that is an 8 and 12 pitch there for the little chimney thingamajigger. But I got all the fascia, so that's going to be trim color there, and then the siding will be the siding color. And then there's a trim board 1x that goes on the bottom of this. And then we built a platform of death, as I call it, off the side of the deck so that I could do the siding over here on this side. So as you can see here, we did the siding up there, and the platform of death allowed me to stand out off the railing there, and then I tied myself off with a fall harness and was able to do all of the trim there. The only thing I have left to do on the platform of death, I'm going to leave it there, as I've got to do these little pieces of siding right in there, and then I'll probably like caulk everything now while I've got the platform up, just to make caulking easier. So yeah, tomorrow we can start on interior trim out. So we can do all of the beadboard plywood on the ceilings and all the interior trim. So getting closer. So have you ever heard of scribing? This is basically what we're gonna do. So I took this piece and I went out on the wall, and I'm basically gonna do the same thing I did before, but in this case, we're going to scribe it onto this other piece of siding. This is my test piece here. So we're gonna take our pencil, we're just gonna follow the line. You can see I have 2 lines there because my first one I screwed up. Okay, and then we're gonna go up that way. All right, so there you go. You can sort of see my line. I'll fill it in a little bit more. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I'm actually weaving in the siding. I should have put a corner board in there, and I didn't. And that actually needs to be cut out a little bit more, so I'm gonna do that. I didn't put a corner board in the corner because it was such a tight corner. This piece is only gonna be like that wide. So I took this scrap piece that I could fit in there, and maybe I'll do another demonstration on how to scribe with. Check it out. It's raining and it's dry. Got a little bit of wind blown rain there, a little bit of splash off of the platform there, but it is raining and it's all dripping off there. I need to get a gutter across the front side here. Getting ready to get started on putting up these beadboard panels. They got a little damp from the rain the other day, and got a little bit of mildew, mold on them. I sprayed them with some bleach earlier. I mean, they'll be fine, they'll dry out, but start putting those up on the ceiling here shortly. We're gonna do we got a can light right there where you can see where those 2 wires are. We got another can light going right there. We got a can light going here, one over there, fan in the middle, speaker there, and a speaker there. So I'll have to make a few holes. It's pouring down rain now, you can hear it on the metal roof. All right, so I'm doing the beadboard panels now. You see they got a little wet, got a little bit of mildew on them, but we'll spray it down with some bleach, and once they dry out in here, they'll be fine. They were all stuck together in a pile, and they got a little wet, and they got a little warped and stuff from the rain, but as we nail them up, they're straightening out. They're 1/4-inch panels. So putting them up by myself. So I want to show you how to do paneling by yourself. So I put up a couple blocks up there. Those are little, call them helping hands or whatever. And then what I have is this little thing, and it is, you can see I'm dropping the seam all the way here. I'm gonna cover all these with some 1x's, make sort of like a coffered ceiling kind of look. And so you won't actually see that seam once I trim it all out. So what we're doing here is, you take this, I put 1 screw in, this is 1 joist bay over, and then what I'll do is I'll stick the panel up in there like that and hold it down on this end, and then I'll climb up on the ladder, push it up into place, and then we'll turn this little thing to hold this end of the piece. And then what I can do is come down and get on the other ladder, line up this edge here on this end, and then come back here and line up this edge on this end, because these boards overlap one another. And then once I've done that, then I can start nailing it off. I'm stapling it with a crown stapler, a 1/4 inch narrow crown stapler. That's what I'm using. The staples just hold the paneling better than like a brad nail or a finish nail would. Because the brad nail or the finish nail has a tendency to shoot right through it. So the stapler actually holds it pretty tight. So that's how we're fastening it here. And basically we're seaming it all right down the middle here. I have one more full sheet here, and then I have to rip a sheet for this last one here. And then I'm batch cutting them all on the floor. So I stacked them all on top of one another, and I cut the length all the way across. These are, this one's 91 inches, and the other one is going to be, 98. It's not gonna work. Son of a bitch. Right, so got the ceiling on today. Yeah, just a little wet from sitting outside. Got all the beadboard on. For some reason I got a little out of square there, but I don't know what was going on there. But anyways, it's all gonna get covered up by crown molding, so it doesn't really matter. We did have kind of a little bit of a seam in the middle. I'm gonna put a probably like a 1x8 down the middle and kind of make like a coffered look ceiling out here. I did it at my old house, it looked really neat. So gonna do that, and gotta come in here and cut in the holes for the can lights there and there. One over here and one over there. They're about basically 37 inches in, 36 in this way, 37 in this way, 36 that way. And then the other side is, yeah, 37 and a half. 37 and a half, I wrote it down right there. So 37 and a half inches from the sides, and then 36 inches in this way, 36 inches in this way. And then we'll have the fan in the middle, and then I'll cut in the speakers. Will basically be like right in the middle over there, about 24. One will be 24 inches and one will be 21 inches because there's a joist in the way. So the easiest way to put up this paneling by yourself is I made this little ledger here, and I screwed that up on that beam on the side, dropped it about 1.5 inches down. And then I got a long piece of this piece right here, and I put a screw in the middle of it, okay? And I screwed it on the second joist back. You can kind of see it up there if it focuses, but I don't think it will. Screwed it there, and what that allowed me to do is kind of turn it sideways out of the way, slide the panel up into the groove this way, walk up the ladder holding the other end, and then flip that thing into the middle, and that held it in the middle. And then I was able to sort of line the sheet up, get it all lined up, and then and nail it all in. I nailed it all down with 1/4 inch, with a narrow crown stapler, 1/4 inch crown stapler right there. That guy shoots these little crown staples. The staples hold better than like brad nails would or finish nails. So I like to use those better with like 1/4 inch paneling and stuff like that. So tomorrow we'll do the trim boards in here. We've got a board, these 1x8s go along the bottom here, and there'll be a little bit of a ledge that sticks out. So the 1x8s go along the bottom, and then I've got some more of this 1/4 inch fiber cement paneling, 12 inch paneling that's gonna go all along here on the inside. And then after that, once we do that, we can put in our post here. I've decided I'm gonna do double screen doors here. So I'm gonna do basically 48 inch screen doors. So there'll be 2 screen doors side by side. That'll make a 48 inch wide door. And then we'll have a post 6x6 in the middle here. And then for my railings, I'm gonna have to put some 4x4s on the outside in the middles here to support the railing, and then those will have to be bolted in from the outside, and then we'll put the railing up. And then once we have the railing up, I will trim it out. I'll put some, basically build like a little 2x2 channel all the way around on the inside, and that's what the screen will attach to. It'll have the same thing on the inside here, and the screen will attach to that. So that'll give us screening all the way across, and we'll do the same thing on the sides too. Up on the metal roof here, and I installed my rake trims here. So we start at the bottom. I come up to there. I've got a seam there. I siliconed that with some black silicone. They don't really have brown silicone. At least I didn't see any at Ace. And then what I did is I brought the piece up the side, and then I actually bent it around the back, and then I bent it over this way so that it would cover up the fascia on the side. And before I did that, I also shoved a piece of flashing up in underneath this piece so that any water will hit this, run down, and then hit that other piece of flashing and come down. And then this piece of head flashing here, or it's called end wall flashing or head wall flashing, it's got different names. I tucked it up behind the corner board there. And what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna come in and tape this all the way across here. And that's going to secure it to everything, secure it to the wall. And in case any water gets back behind it, it will run up over that and run out over onto the wall. So that's the plan with this. And then I caulked that around there, caulked it on the back side of that joint. And I'm working my way across the head wall. You have to put these closure strips under here. They're little foam strips, keeps any wind-blown rain from running up underneath. So that's what we did there. And then I've got one more piece I have to cut in the end, and then I'll have to kind of cut it and tuck it behind the siding and have it come down and out. So we'll get a little creative with that and have it lap over the side. And then we're putting in some screws here. I'm doing every other rib. I'm not sure if, I probably should have looked that up beforehand, but I'm doing every other rib. I feel like every rib is a little overkill, so I'm doing every other rib. And then I'm putting one there on the rake flashing. This rake flashing also gets secured down by this butyl tape. It's just butyl rubber tape, and it goes underneath there. You can sort of see it where it's like oozed out there, that gray. So that seals that whole joint all the way down the edge. So if any water comes down that, it won't get up underneath the thing. But even if it does, there's still actually a lip on the other side. So if any water actually does get underneath, it'll go in, it'll hit that lip, and it'll keep running down there and come out the other end on the end. So it's really not a big deal even if water does get underneath there. That's mainly to protect the sides, to keep any water from getting in from the sides, because it does go down the side of the rake and then it flares out with a drip edge. And then on the front side of the roof, we just did a regular drip edge, and then I'm putting a gutter all the way across the front. So my gutter will actually tuck up behind the drip edge that's on there. And then so any water will run off this roof, run down on the drip edge, and then out into the gutter. So that's how you got to make sure you seal it up so it doesn't get any water. And then once I'm done with all this, I will come back and actually put a piece of siding on here to cover this whole thing up. So that's the plan, Stan. We are finished. I know that's probably a little sloppy to you right there, but all done. Rake.